Hello, and welcome to June's edition of the Junior Naturalist program. We're here at the Rosewood Nature Study Area where we're going to learn all about wetlands. My name's Colleen, and this is Eliza.
If you love plants and wildlife, you will love wetlands. Wetlands are home to nearly 5,000 different plant species. Not only that, but a third of all bird life in the United States, including all the wild geese and ducks, need wetlands to survive. So do 190 different species of amphibians. Let's go see what cool stuff we can learn here.
Wetlands are highly productive and biologically diverse systems that are characterized by water-saturated land. Wetlands can be flooded by water either year-round or seasonally. Some things that distinguish wetlands from other landforms or bodies of water is the vegetation of aquatic plants, adapted to their unique hydric soil. Hydric soil is just soil which is permanently or seasonally saturated by water, resulting in conditions that are anaerobic or lacking oxygen.
One important thing to remember is that wetlands provide many different functions and services for us, including mitigating climate change. Let's explore some other ways in which wetlands provide us different services. Wetlands provide protection against floods because they act as natural tubs. Their soil readily absorbs water, and often the shape of the land allows for flat depressions within the wetland to be filled up. Wetlands also improve water quality by removing pollutants from water through 3 different processes: sediment trapping, chemical detoxification, and nutrient removal. And as we already mentioned, wetlands provide habitat and food for thousands of plants and animals, and even some endangered species.
Here are some species of birds we've identified and filmed out in the Rosewood Nature Study Area that we love. Our trail cameras here at the Rosewood Nature Study Area also pick up some really interesting footage, including this rare nighttime footage of a coyote exploring the wetland. And this early morning footage of a few coyotes exploring the wetland. Look, this family of yellow-bellied marmots made this little boat their home. And we even caught a muskrat swimming in our wetland. Both are amazing mammals and rodents that live at the Nature Study Area. There are also some unique animals that call wetlands their home, including beavers, newts, salamanders, dragonflies, snails, herons, water striders, and even alligators. But have no fear, we don't have any alligators here in Reno. Some of the endangered species that call wetlands home include the bald eagle, the fat tucket mussel, the red wolf, the whooping crane, and the swamp rose. In fact, not only are the wetlands home to endangered organisms, but the wetlands themselves are in danger.
90% of all wetland habitats have been destroyed or removed over time. That means that very few habitats like this still exist today. Hey, Millie.
Oh, hey, Eliza, what's up?
Millie here is one of our fantastic wetland techs that work to preserve this awesome nature study area. Millie, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Of course. So right now I'm pulling invasive plants out in the wetland. And an invasive plant means that the plant comes from an area that is outside of this region and it is harmful to the ecosystem and local wildlife. So right here I'm pulling, this plant is called tall whitetop. And if you look at it, you might notice that it has these really pretty white flowers, but it's actually super invasive because when it grows in large clumps and creates something called a monoculture, and that prevents other native plants from growing in the area. So we try our best to remove as much of it as we can.
Oh my gosh, thanks for doing that.
Yeah, of course.
Once you have all of these removed, what are you gonna do then?
Well, that's a great question. So usually once we have all the area cleared of the invasive plant, we'll try to integrate more native species. So right here we have a native chokecherry. This is a type of tree that we have planted out here, and it helps stabilize the soil structure and provides habitat for native wildlife and a food source for wildlife as well. So it's just a really great way to kind of counteract the invasive plants we have out here.
It's not just invasive species that can harm our wetlands. Our wetlands can also be harmed by human activity, such as development and pollution. Human development can harm our wetlands by causing habitat fragmentation or loss of habitat. Habitat fragmentation is when habitat is split up into lots of little parts, and it is very difficult for animals and species to move in between the little parts. And then, of course, habitat loss is simply when we lose huge swaths of habitat. There's also, of course, pollution, which can harm our waterways in our wetlands. It can harm our plants and our animals. And there are lots of ways to help, thankfully. We can support conservation efforts, for example, supporting conservation organizations. We can also pick up our trash and also pick up our dogs' waste when we're on the trails. And finally, like we went over earlier, we can plant native species.
All of that reminds me that our password of the month is conservation. Conservation is the protection of things found in nature. It involves everything we've talked about so far, from the removal of invasive species to the planting of native ones. It helps protect and create habitats, so the cool animals here have places to live that are free of trash and other human clutter. But with all the work we do, how do we know it works? Maybe Angela will know. She's one of our other cool wetland techs out here. Hey, Angela.
Hey, Eliza.
With all the work that you do and everybody does for conservation, how do we know it works?
Oh man, well that's a really, really good question, Eliza. Well, there's a lot of different ways that we tell whether or not our ecological restoration work is actually, in fact, making an impact on the wetland. And one of the ways we do that is that each and every Friday we take bird surveys. And so how we do so is we walk along the wetland property and we count as many bird species that we see using equipment such as binoculars or a spotting scope.
Very cool. That sounds like a lot of fun, but how does that tell us anything?
Really, really good question again. So what this tells us is when we're walking along the wetland and we're counting birds, what we're doing is we're making observations. So we're trying to make observations on the abundance and diversity of birds that are on the wetland. So abundance means the amount of birds on the wetland or the actual number. And then the diversity is how many species that we in fact see on the wetland property. And so what we're trying to do is, with our ecological restoration work, we're trying to increase both of those, abundance and diversity on the wetland. And that in turn will make a far more healthier wetland habitat for our bird friends.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Anytime, Eliza.
As we've heard from our wetland techs, there are so many fun jobs you can have out here in a wetland nature area. Another cool thing, though, is that wetlands are great for recreation. Depending on what wetland you visit, you can take part in activities like nature walks, bird watching, kayaking, fishing, nature immersion, and so many other things. The possibilities are endless, as long as you remember to be safe and not to harm any of the things that call this area home, like the plants or any of the animals. Is there anything that you're looking forward to doing when you get to this nature study area? My favorite thing to do is just to take a moment and enjoy all the greenery that wetlands have to offer. It's so beautiful. Speaking of greenery, here's our hidden JNATs rock. Can you find it? Here's a hint. It's located right next to a bridge. Now, when you do find it, make sure you take a picture. But remember, just like all of the other things that call this awesome area home, make sure you let it be so that other people can enjoy it in the future too. This month, we've opened up the Rosewood Nature Study Area for you, the Junior Naturalists, to come and explore. When you do so, we have a few activities that we think you'll enjoy. The first is to explore your area. Are there any parks nearby? Maybe even your backyard. Make a number of what different plants you see, what different animals, how many worms, any birds, anything like that. Write them down on a piece of paper. Not only what they are, but how many you see. And then, when you get here, do the same thing. That way, you can compare the two and really see the differences. Our second activity for you is a bingo and scavenger hunt. That will be provided once you get to the wetland area.
And lastly, for activity 3, you will be creating your own water strider. Have you ever seen these little guys? They're bugs that hop around on the surface of ponds, lakes, and rivers. But how do they do it without sinking? Well, let's find out. First, we tightly twist the 3 wires together in the middle to form a bug's body. Then we want to spread the legs out to evenly distribute the water strider's weight. Curve each of your water strider's legs into a long, shallow U shape, just like in this picture. When you put the water strider down on a flat surface, it should rest on all 6 legs with the body up off the ground. Gently place your water strider into a bowl of water and make sure that each leg touches the water at the exact same time. If your water strider sinks, just adjust the legs. Once you get your water strider to float, look very closely at where the legs touch the water. What do you see? Well, at the surface, water molecules like to stick together, creating tension and forming sort of a membrane called surface tension. Your water strider is able to walk on water because it distributes its body weight and takes advantage of water tension to avoid sinking. If you'd like to explore the science behind water striders further, try making a water strider with different materials, like pipe cleaners, paper, or paper clips, for example. And good luck, scientists!
Well, we've learned a lot about wetlands today. Not just about their importance, but also how much fun they can be to explore and visit.
Thanks for joining us on our wetland journey. We hope to see you out here exploring the Rosewood Nature Study Area. When you're here, remember to grab a supply kit from our office, and we'll see you next month, Junior Naturalists.